Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, your excellent brothers and sisters from all over the world. It's such an honor to be with all of you, inshallah. We hope that you will have a blessed last 10 days of the holy month of Dhul Hijjah. And soon it's also Arafah and also Eid al-Adha. So already we want to send our salams and greetings and wish you all last 10 days of Dhul Hijjah Mubarak and also Eid al-Adha Mubarak. If we don't meet before, we want to send our salams right now as well, inshallah. We will now continue with our third session today in this 5-part lecture series with Professor Dr. Osman Bakar from Malaysia. ISIP, the International Students of Islamic Psychology, in collaboration with ISTAC and IIUM, is offering these series, and we're very honored to be with all of you. Would you please unmute your microphones, dear brothers and sisters, when you join the session? We would really appreciate it. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today's agenda is to just recite Surah Al-Fatiha, and then we'll do some welcoming and just some guidelines for the session. Then we will present Professor Dr. Osman Bakar and his lecture. And afterwards, we will have a Q&A session as well. So all of your questions, you can just add them to the Zoom chat, and we will address them to our excellent teacher, Professor Bakar, at the end of the session. Brief Zoom etiquettes, dear brothers and sisters. Please keep your Zoom muted. This is for the benefit for everybody as we're learning from our excellent teacher. No recordings or screenshots are allowed. We will actually send you the Zoom link. Send you the YouTube link with the recording after 3 days. Upload it to ISIP's YouTube channel so you can benefit from it afterwards. And you will also receive the quiz for the third session as well. So all this information will be emailed to you and also shared in all of our WhatsApp groups as well. Questions in the Zoom chat, please, and we will address them in the end. And if you need live transcriptions, please feel free to press the More button in your Zoom as a function, and then you just request the transcription, and we will be more than happy to provide that for you, inshallah. So let's just recite Surah Al-Fatiha just to get the blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Malik yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim wala dhalin. Sadaqallahu al-azim. Barakallahu feekum. We're very honored as ISIP to do this in collaboration with ISTAC and IIUM, the International Islamic University of Malaysia. Professor Osman, as the chair of the Al-Ghazali, and also as an integral part of the ISTAC, has been so generous with us in offering this program in collaboration with us, which we're very honored to do. So we want to thank our partners, the ISTAC and the IIUM, for this wonderful session that we're doing together with you guys. If you would like to be benefiting from the lectures with Professor Osman or other lectures in the field of Islamic psychology that ISIP is conducting, feel free to subscribe to ISIP's YouTube channel. You can also join us with some of our WhatsApp groups for resource sharing within the field of Islamic psychology and Muslim mental health. And also, if we have an exclusive Al-Ghazali lecture WhatsApp discussion group, if you would like to discuss the content of these lectures that we're having with Professor Bakar. All these links will be shared in the Zoom chat by Sister Fatima or myself. Also, if you would like to become a member of ISIP to benefit from all of our resources, feel free to join our website, www.isip.foundation. There you can also get access to our digital library free of charge for all of our members. And membership is also free. If you have any questions with regards to the lecture series with Professor Osman, we have noticed that some of you have had difficulties to do the quizzes. Some of you have not received it on your emails. Generally, we think that those who have not received it in your emails, it could be in your spam folder, or it could be other technical difficulties. If you have any questions with regards to the lecture series, the quizzes, or ISIP generally, feel free to email to admin@isip.foundation, and we will be at your service, inshallah. So just one thing I also want to add is that we share the Zoom link prior to the session as well. This is a request from many of those who cannot attend all of the sessions, but yet want to benefit from some of them. If you want to get the certificate, you need to have been registered before the session 1. Now, if you just join to listen to this session or other sessions, that's totally fine, but then you cannot receive the certificate. The certificate is contingent on being part of all the 5 sessions and that you registered prior to we started the lecture series with Professor Bakar, just so you guys know. But you can still join and listen and benefit from it, of course, and we will share the Zoom link to all of those who are part of our groups or other groups. So you don't need to register necessarily. Registration is only for those who have been part of the session since the first program, and also for those who want to have the certificate, inshallah. So let's start by discussing and introducing the session for today, which is the session 3. And the topic will be the significance of psychology to Al-Ghazali's Ihya Ulum. And as I mentioned, recording of the session, slides, and mini assessment will be available in 3 days, inshallah. So check your email. Next session will be August the 20th, Saturday, August the 20th. And that will be within the theme of Al-Ghazali's Alchemy of Happiness, the Crown of Islamic Psychology. Assessment should be completed before next lecture, dear brothers and sisters. Only those who complete and pass the 5 assessments will receive the e-certificate. Now, let's go to the most important part of the session today, and just to introduce our excellent Murabbi teacher and one of the leading scholars in Islamic thought in the world, Professor Dr. Osman Bakar. He's a doctorate in Islamic philosophy from Temple University, Philadelphia, United States of America, currently holder of Al-Ghazali's Chair of Epistemology and Civilizational Studies and Renewal at ISTAC-IIUM, the International Islamic University of Malaysia, Emeritus Professor in Philosophy of Science at University of Malaya, author and editor of 41 books and more than 300 articles on various aspects of Islamic thought and civilization, particularly Islamic science and philosophy, in which he is a leading authority. He has been named among the 500 most influential Muslims in the world since 2009. And we're also happy to add that Professor Osman just received a prize that he for his achievements in Islamic thought throughout his career. From the Al-Farabi Institute or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So we want to send our mabrooks also to Professor Osman, and feel free to send mabrooks on the Zoom chat as well. So in the end of the session, dear participants, brothers and sisters, we will also send a form where you can just give feedback for the series. And if you would like to give us nasiyah how we can do it even better, we would really appreciate all of your feedback. Please forgive us for any shortcomings, dear excellent brothers and sisters. Make dua for us. Could you mute yourself, please? Could you mute yourself, please? Sorry. Please forgive us for any shortcomings, dear brothers and sisters. Such an honor to be with all of you, and you're all doing such an excellent work in engaging in the program and course, and we're honored to be with all of you. And make dua for us, and please fill out the short feedback from after the session. So let me stop sharing my screen, and without any further ado, let us now welcome Professor Osman. The floor is yours. Barakallahu fikum.
Thank you, Brother Said and Sister Fatima, for handling this program for the 3rd consecutive months. Alhamdulillah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And a very good day. Alhamdulillah, welcome back. And for those who are new, I welcome them for our 3rd lecture in the series on the Islamic psychology from the Ghazalian perspective. As for the title of the presentation today, it is the significance of Islamic or the significance of psychology and approaches to health in Ihya Ulum. And just if you remember, in the original schedule, the 3rd lecture is supposed to be on the Al-Ghazali's Alchemy of Happiness, but I decided to change, to bring that forward. So in other words, swap with lecture number 4 becomes number 3. So that is the topic tonight. Now, if you look at the topic, significance of psychology and approaches to health in Ihya Ulumuddin. Now, what I intend to do today is decided to answer two questions. First, why is the place and role of psychology in the Al-Ghazali's magnum opus, Ihya Ulumuddin? And the other topic is, of course, what significance of the approaches to health in Ihya Ulumuddin. So, inshallah, I will try to present my material in such a way that I will be able to provide answers to the two questions. All right. Now, in order to answer those questions, but before I proceed to answer that, that is revisit Ihya Ulumuddin. I have mentioned in the past two lectures several points, several aspects contained in the book, but basically I've touched here and there, but really without going deep into the, or without looking at the entire work. But because I have to answer the two questions which I mentioned, the significance of psychology in Ihya Ulumuddin and the significance of approaches to health in Ihya, as I mentioned in here, then we must have a better picture of what Ihya is all about, right? So first of all here, I would like to present the format and structure of Ihya. Basically, that magnum opus Al-Ghazali, which comprises 40 books in all. First, the introduction to the Ihya, which explains, in a sense, the background of Al-Ghazali's composition of the book. I mean, why did he want to write the book? What inspired him to do that? What motivated him to do that? What is who were the audience that he want to address, and what were the main issues that he want to discuss in that whole work. So basically, the introduction is very important. He explains in the introduction the structure of the Ihya. So basically, in the terms that we use today, I said it's a kind of a 4-volume work. He used the word 4 quarters, the singular rub'an. We have to have the 4 parts or quarters. So the volume 1 comprises 10 books. The main title of the whole volume is Acts of Worship, Al-Ibadah. Then the second volume, volume 2, or second quarter, the translated, used by some translators as usages of life, but the word used by Al-Ghazali himself is basically in the content, in the chaptering, use al-adad, and sometimes the word used by maybe some scholars who study al-mu'amalat, also comprise 10 books. Then we have the volume 3, the quarter. The title of that volume is Destructive Matters to Life, and the Arabic word used as al-muhlikat. This comprises 10 books. Mulikat, referring to methods that are destructive, in the sense that are negative, that are objectionable to the soul. Basically, that which affects the health of the soul. Now, the volume 4, the last volume, the fourth quarter, the title is Saving Matters to Life. Al-Munajjiyat also comprises 10 books. So basically, we have a work, 40 books in all. It's a very, very big work. We know that the book was completed just about 5 years before his death, although we scholars have different opinions about exactly when the work started, how long it took. But anyway, everybody agrees that Ihya is basically Al-Ghazali's magnum opus. Now, regarding I want to say something about the title, because in a sense, Al-Ghazali also explained the reason why the book is titled as such, because what he wants to do is Ihya. Some people translate that as revival. Some others translate that as revivification. Revivification, in other words, to give new life, basically, to the sciences of religion. Again, the question is whether to translate Ulumuddin as sciences of religion or religious sciences. I would like to give my own opinion on this thing. In other words, in terms, first of all, Ihya, whether to translate revival or revivification. I prefer revivification rather than just revival, bearing in mind religion has both form and substance. So we can say of revival of religion, maybe in other words, the religion is revived in merely in its external forms, in terms the externalities of the religion, in terms of the practices, right? In terms of the outward behavior of the followers of the religion, but not really the spirit of that religion, the substance of that religion. In other words, I would prefer to translate here as revivification, because that involves both revival and in sense in sense of renewal. It's both revival and renewal. So what I mean by renewal is precisely that spirit of the religion, in this, of course, the sciences of religion. Now, I prefer to translate Ulumuddin as sciences of the religion instead of religious sciences, partly because in our times especially, the word religious carries a certain baggage. When we say that these are religious sciences, that means there are other sciences which are not religious. That is the implication. But if we understand, if we use the translation, rendering of sciences of religion, then we understand a deen, meaning that complete and perfect deen that was mentioned in the Quran. Today I have perfected for you your religion. This Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. Today I have perfected for your religion. That deen referring to the content of the Quran. So we say sciences of religion means we are referring to the sciences of the whole religion. And in fact, if we look at the content over here, especially volume number 2, using with Al-Adah, Al-Mu'amadah, then basically it deals with the entire aspects of civilization. In other words, the volume 2 deals with issues not just of the individual, but also of the collective life. or rather, it has implications for collective life, as we shall see, inshallah. So, therefore, with that understanding, in other words, Ihya Ulum, I understand it as a revivification of the sciences of religion. And Ghazali also referred to that as the science of religion. All right. Now, let us go carefully through each volume, because we want to answer the question, how much of the content of Ihya deals with psychology and deals with approaches to health, because that's really my purpose, what I intend to do. Now, if you look at the 10 books in the first volume, these are the titles. The titles, of course, yes, basically these are many English translations, but wherever the translations may not be clear, may be ambiguous, I put in brackets also the Arabic, the original Arabic word or Arabic phrases. Now, book number 1, and Ghazali explained why he started the book. He started the work with the first book titled The Book of Knowledge. So it means a very, very important subject in sense, which is in accordance with the perspective, the Islamic perspective. Islam, let's remember, the Islam is a religion of knowledge. It's the religion of knowledge. Knowledge defines Islam. Knowledge is the means that Islam is characterized. For Islam, salvation in this world depends on knowledge. Salvation in the next world also depends on knowledge. All right. So the importance of knowledge is central to Islam. So it was only proper that Al-Ghazali started with the book of knowledge. Now, one be tempted to say then, because it's book of knowledge, that the chapter or the book deals with epistemology. Well, being a student of epistemology, I would say that certainly it is correct to say that the book number 1 is about applied Tawhidic epistemology. I emphasize that Islamic epistemology is basically it is Tawhidic epistemology. But in the case of book number 1 here, Al-Ghazali deals with the applied or practical epistemology, which is being applied to the teachings, basically the teachings of Islam, and as we shall see, in fact, that's going to influence and shape the rest of the volume. All right. So in another way also, we can say that book number 1 is about ethics of knowledge in Islam. Ethics of knowledge in Islam. Which knowledge is more important than others? Which branch of knowledge is considered as blameworthy or doesn't bring any benefit, is not beneficial, and so on. Now, but I'll be interested to know what is the relevance of book number 1 to psychology. Well, I'll do that later, but now let me go first to book number 2, which is about the articles of faith, the foundation of articles of faith. He used that this Qawaid al-Aqidah, the foundation of articles of faith. So that deals with Aqidah. Now, the book number 3, the mysteries of purity. The word used here for purity, tahara, and also related to cleanliness, which is important. So purity, cleanliness. Then book number 4, the mysteries of prayer. All right, the mysteries of zakat, the mystery of fasting, mysteries of the pilgrimage, rules of reading the Quran, This one, Adab Tilawatul Quran, on invocation, Al-Azkar, and supplication, Al-Da'awat, and book 10 on regular devotion. Actually, the Arabic one is Tartibul Awrad fil Awqat, here translated as on regular devotion. So the whole book is covered under the title, the acts or the of ibadah, the title as ibadah. Basically, this is part of the Sharia sciences. Now, you can see from here that basically it deals with Iman, article faith, and then the Arkanul Islam, regarding prayer, zakat, fasting, and pilgrimage. And of course, you have here extra chapters, basically 8, 9, and 10. The books 8, 9, and 10 deal with the what you call, I would say, the spiritual activities, the spiritualization of the articles of faith and the 5 pillars of Islam. All right, let me go now to, we'll come back here again, and then the volume number 2. Now, volume number 2, as I said just now, it deals with Adan and also the Mu'amalat. All right. Now, basically, the important words used by Al-Ghazali in this book, what I translated here as ethics, all right, as ethic, is either referring to adab, yeah, why we need adab in every aspect of our life, all right. And therefore here, book number 1, ethics of eating. Book 2, ethics of marriage. Number 3, ethics of earning a livelihood. And in this case, the ethics is meant to be rendering of the word ahkam. Ahkam al-kasb, in other words, ethics of earning a livelihood. Book number 4, on the lawful and the unlawful. Book number 5, the ethics of companionship. The ethics of companionship, and association with various types of humans. Very interesting that Al-Ghazali used the phrase asnaf al-khalq. Asnaf al-khalq, the various types of human. Yes, because here some translators refer to human, but in a more, Ghazali used it also in a general sense. In the context of our time, we are talking now also about the human relationship, also with the environment, with the different creatures of the environment. So that word used by Al-Ghazali still is sufficient, also is relevant for that purpose. So anyway, the book number 6 on seclusion, Al-Uzla, the book number 7, ethics of travel. Book number 8 on music and ecstasy, basically presented as a music and ecstasy here. Al-Sama, well watched. And book number 7 on enjoining good and forbidding evil. Book number 10, the ethics of living, as exemplified in the Prophet's conduct, akhlaq. As I said earlier, if you look at the areas, the sectors of life, in a sense, that is what society is all about, what is community living is all about, what civilization is all about. So the need for adab, and in Malay, is using the word adab. Malay, the Malays, in the Malay language, we have the word, from the word adab, we have peradaban, meaning civilization. So basically, civilization is an ordered system. It is a moral, ethical order it is a spiritual order, and eating, marriage, earning your livelihood, right? Companionship, association, with various groups of human beings, on seclusion. Inclusion is also is important, but of course, Ghazali framework to seclusion for a spiritual purpose. Here, we live in the age of travel, the ethics of travel, and of course, we live in an age when music is available for 24 hours a day, and all different kinds of ecstasy in the negative sense also. So, I mean, all this enjoining good and forbidding evil, we need ethics. We need ethics. What Al-Ghazali has provided in this volume number 2 is to provide that ethics, adab. All right. Now we go to volume number 3, book number 1, on the wonders of the heart, Ajaib al-Qalb, wonders of the heart. Basically, it's looking at the heart as a kind of kingdom, a spiritual kingdom, where is the king, the ministers, the army. Ghazali explained that, called it the wonders of the heart. Of course, there is a sector in that kingdom which is under the influence control of Satan. We have we have the which is a region in that kingdom which is very challenging to human being. Then back book number 2 on the discipline of the soul, Riyadatun Nafs. Book number 3 on the breaking of the 2 desires. Basically, we have two desires here that symbolize the whole of the lower desires and the higher desires. So in the case of the lower desires of the lower nafs, there is a desire of the stomach, shahwa al-bat, sexual desires, shahwa al-farj. Now, book number 4, the harms of the tongue. Now, 5, the curse of anger, hatred and envy. Then book number 6, the evil of the world, the blameworthy nature of the world. Book number 7, the evil of wealth and avarice. Book number 8, the evil of al-jah. Al-jah means is a form, a kind of people want to show off their wealth, their power. That is comes under that term. So we have many people who are wealthy, who are powerful, and they want to show off the wealth and the power that they have. And then, of course, hypocrisy, riya. And book number 9, the evil of pride, conceit, and self-praise. So al-kibru wal-ujbun. Well, there are many people, of course, also who are indulged in self-praise, who cannot but must indulge in this kind of pride, conceit, and self-praise. And book number 10, the evils of vanity and delusions, al-ghurur, delusion. Now, basically, try to understand, to reflect on the content of the volume number 3. Basically, here this with the al-muhlikat, in other words, the dangers, the diseases, illnesses, the challenge, the very negative challenge that is faced by the human soul. In other words, basically these are the major spiritual diseases of the heart that Al-Ghazali is talking about. Now, volume 4. This is deals with the al-munajjiyah. In other words, the things that save, the saving things, the things that save our soul, basically. And this is about spiritual life, to live in the straight path, the path to God, to be in the spiritual path, the straight path. We always pray in Dina Surat al-Mustaqim. So basically, this is the path, the spiritual path. It is the life of spiritual excellence that will make us a human person, a human being that is loved by Allah. All right. So book number 1 on repentance, at-tawbah, the need to repent from sins. Book number 2 on patience, as-sabr, and gratitude, as-shukr. These are 2 qualities to symbolize, yes, basically, in a sense, very, very important to symbolize spiritual health. These are 2 qualities, praiseworthy qualities of the soul, and we mean by quality here is a virtue. So patience as a virtue, gratitude as a virtue. And book number 3 on fear, al-khawf, and hope, al-raja. Book 4 on poverty, al-faqr, and asceticism, az-zuhd. So in poverty that is praised, asceticism that is praised, withdrawal from the world. So these are 2 praiseworthy qualities as well. So this is not, we are not talking here about physical poverty. We are hearing about spiritual poverty when Allah says in the Quran that I am the rich and you are the poor, al-fuqara. You are the fuqara, you are the poor. And book number 5 on divine unity, at-tawheed, and trust in God, at-tawakkul. Again, we mean Allah loves the mutawakkilun, the people who have trust in Him. Then book number 6 on love, al-mahabba, longing, al-shaq, intimacy, al-uns, and contentment, al-rida. Again, these are basically spiritual qualities very much prized, especially by the Sufis. In Sufism, this emphasized as stations, spiritual stations, spiritual conditions. Now, book number 7 on intentions and niyyah, the importance of having the sincere intentions, the right intention. So that's why it goes together with truthfulness, as-sidq. Sorry, there's a mistake there. Sidqun, S-I-D-Q, and sincerity, al-ikhlas. Book number 7 on self-examination, muraqabah, and self-accounting, muhasabah. To be conscious of oneself, to examine oneself. If we have that attitude, then we are on the right track. Then book number 9 on meditation, at-tafakkur. Meditation, we have another word that goes with, there's a pair, we have meditation and invocation. There we have at-tafakkur, meditation, and dhikr. You have the dhikr. Now, it is interesting that Al-Ghazali concluded, which was his 40th book on remembrance of death, the importance of remembrance of death. Those of you who study philosophy, study in one of the definitions of even pre-Islamic philosophy, and was repeated by people like Al-Farabi and so on. Al-Kindi, I think Al-Kindi before that, Al-Kindi gave several definitions of philosophy. So one of the definition of philosophy is remembrance of death. It's very, very interesting, because modern people want to forget that, but spiritual people want to remember that. So that's it, that we have 4 volumes, 40 books, 40 chapters, all right? And we have gone through just now the various topics. So based on that, we should be able to answer or to reflect how much of these are related, connected to the subject of psychology. All right. Let me first go through in Al-Ghazali's own words. What kind of work is Ihya Ulum? What kind of work is Ihya in Al-Ghazali's own words? These are all translations taken from his book, all right? Basically from the first book in the introduction. This is taken from the introduction of the whole work. All right. Quote number 1. The science of the path of the hereafter, which our forefathers trod, and which includes what God in his book called law. The law there referring to fiqh, al-fiqh, wisdom, knowledge, enlightenment, light, guidance, and righteousness has vanished from among men and been completely forgotten. Very important statement from him. That's what how he looked at his time. The kind of knowledge that has vanished, that has been forgotten, and basically he has the intention to revive that. Now, second quotation. This is a calamity afflicting religion. I have therefore deemed it important to engage in the writing of this book with 3 goals. To revivify the sciences of religion, Ulumuddin, to bring to light the exemplary lives of the departed Imams, and number 3, to show the branches of knowledge which the prophets and the virtuous forefathers regarded as useful. Quotation number 3. The science by which we approach the hereafter is divided into the science of practical religion, the word he used, ilmul mu'amalat, and the science of unveiling, ilmul mukashafa, right? Science of practical religion. The science of the hereafter is divided into science of practical religion and science of unveiling. Now, by the science of unveiling, I mean knowledge and only knowledge. By the science of practical religion, I mean knowledge as well as action in accordance with that knowledge. This work, meaning Ihya, will deal only with the science of practical religion and not with the science of unveiling. So this is a very important thing which Al-Ghazali make very clear from the very beginning of the work. Therefore, his work does not cover the topic of the all those things experienced by the spiritual authorities, especially by the Sufis, all right, of which Al-Ghazali is one, and in other words, that science of supra-rational experiences, right? The inner kinds of experiences by which realities are unveiled to certain people, and so he does not treat that, and he considers, and he mentioned in subparts of the Ihya that really belongs to, or rather, the kind of knowledge that is pursued by whom he called al-Khawas, the elite. Exactly now this with the awam, with the general public, at the popular level of understanding of religion. But he also talks about Khawas and also Khawas of Khawas. khawasul khawas. In other words, the elite of the elite, which means they are discussing the secrets of religion, secrets in the sense that some people are simply not ready for that and do not have the necessary aptitude, do not have the necessary knowledge to understand that. So now he deals with practical religion, which is meant for everybody. All right. Therefore, this will deal only with the science of practical religion. Now, quotation number 4, the science of practical religion is divided into outward science, and zahir, by which is meant knowledge through the functions and activities of bodily organs, especially the senses. And we gain that knowledge, we acquire that knowledge, that's called ilmu zahir, through the physical senses, basically. Then we have the inward science, ilmu batin, by which is meant knowledge through the functions and activities of the heart. The bodily organs perform either acts of worship, there's ibadah, or usages of life, that while the heart, because it is removed from the senses and belongs to the world of dominion, the word he used is alam al-malakut, meaning here the invisible world that is not perceived by the senses. So therefore, this is subject, subject to either praiseworthy or blameworthy influences. Basically now what he's trying to do, he's trying to explain why he structured his Ihya into 4 divisions, 4 volumes, and then so he's using the approach of basically here epistemological approach, referring to the science of practical religion, which is divided into 2 parts. All right, namely outward science and inward science, and he relates that to both the bodily organs that provide, meaning the senses that provide the knowledge, and the heart. All right, the final quotation here, the outward science which pertains to the body organs is subdivided into acts to worship, meaning ibadah, and usages of life, ada. Right? The outward science deals with 2 things. Now, the inward science, which relates to the conditions of the heart, ahwal al-qalb, and the qualities of the soul, akhlaq and nafs, is subdivided into things which are praiseworthy, mahmud, and things which are objectionable, madmum. Together, these constitute the 4 parts of the science of practical religion. Now, sorry, I can't see something blocking. Now, my question, how much is psychology in the Ihya? So after going through the content of the 4 volumes, how much is psychology in the Ihya? Now, let me begin by saying that Ihya is a multi and interdisciplinary work. Including, certainly when we look at these 4 volumes, we see Quranic studies, Hadith studies, theology, meaning kalam, ilmu kalam, jurisprudence, ilmu fiqh, medicine, health sciences, psychology, Sufism, and eschatology. In other words, we define eschatology as science of the return, the science of the return of all things to God. But Islamic epistemology, of course, covers also the the events at the end of the world. In other words, towards the end of the world, based on some of them also on the prophetic, on the prophets prophecies. What will, for example, the various signs, the signs that we will see along the way as we move closer to the end of the world. So that's also part of eschatology. But certainly when Al-Ghazali had the last the last book in the last collection, that is book number 40, Remembrance of Death, referring also to the in others the life in the hereafter. All right, so that falls under eschatology. I mentioned to put here, for example, theodicy. Theodicy, the question of the presence of evil in the world. What is Islamic perspective on theodicy, especially in dealing with volume number 3 that talks about the exposure of human beings to all kinds of illnesses and diseases. Why do we have that? So many of the books just now we saw with the title of evil, the evil of this, the evil of that. So basically, theodicy deals with the question of why do we have evil in the world. Now, the second point I would say, the Ihya is a book about the salvation of the soul. I'm summarizing here what Al-Ghazali said. Yeah, in other words, the whole book, basically the whole book, is about salvation of the soul, which is none other than practical psychology in its most comprehensive sense. In fact, I would say every volume is connected to the theme of salvation of the soul. So, to the extent that the whole work is about salvation of the soul, it is not wrong to make the claim that essentially the whole book is about practical psychology. Of course, we have already discussed in the last 2 lectures. We understand psychology in the Islamic sense, traditional Islamic sense. It is not psychology as understood in the modern sense. And otherwise, what we mean by when we say practical psychology, that we understand is basically irrelevant to the current discourse in psychology. Although to be fair, there are many people today, many modern psychologists are interested in those issues. Now, number 3, I would say that Ihya is about integral health and medicine of the soul, which again means that the Ihya may be treated as a work on psychology. It's about integral health, and what we mean by integral health, we already explained in previous lecture. We are referring to the talking about here the health of the body, integral health in which the health of the body, the health of the soul, the health of the intelligence or the mind, and the health of the spiritual heart are all integrated in one holistic way, in a unified way. And certainly I look at Ihya as a book which, although deals with many different aspects, but comes out with as a kind of unified work, as a holistic work. It's very, very interesting, for to see the mind of Al-Ghazali was able to come that kind of integrated work. And of course, I emphasize last time, Al-Ghazali had carried out that synthesis of the different views on the different perspectives on the psychology, and comes up with this integrated view. And it's medicine of the soul. Medicine of the soul, in other words, we may look at the entire Ihya as dealing with the subject of medicine of the soul. Someone may ask, well, maybe volume number 3, volume number 4, we can see in a clearer way that it deals with diseases, illnesses, and the question of the medicine. What about the volume number 1? Talk about the volume number 1 to talk about the acts of worship, about the book of knowledge, about the aqaid. In what sense that is related to the soul? Well, I would like to refer to the view of Ikhwan al-Safa, who came before Al-Ghazali, quite close, and their works were read by Al-Ghazali, and so in the book, of course, in the famous Rasail, Ikhwan al-Safa, it's very, very interesting that he referred to the sciences of the Sharia as tib and nufus, meaning that the sciences of the Sharia, which Al-Ghazali dealt in the book in volume number 1, that the indeed he called that tibun nufus, medicine of the souls. So just based on these 3 things, these 3 observations, I don't have no. I mean, I will go with my claim that basically Ihya is a book on practical psychology and book on integral health medicine, because the materials covered in the book of knowledge, materials covered in the kitab, this Qawaid al-Aqidah, basically that is referring to what we call the food of the soul. And it's also something to do with intelligence, with the health of intelligence. Now, volume 1, now I'm trying to make clearer now the connection between each volume and the subject of health, the subject of the salvation of the soul. Now, we see that volume 1, with the title of Ibadah, deals with applied epistemology, dealt with foundations of true beliefs and right actions, and their spiritual refinement. Right? That volume deals with these main topics: applied epistemology, foundations of true beliefs and right action, and their spiritual refinement through what is called invocation, supplication, litanies devotion. Litanies means here the aurat, wirid, jama' aurat, so that litanies devotion in their proper times. So we have here basically volume 1. It amounts to being the foundations of healthy living and the first dimension of preventive medicine. Now, regarding true beliefs and right action, in a sense, Al-Ghazali is saying, look, who is man? Man is a believing creature. Man is an acting creature. That is what man is. Man has beliefs, must have belief. Human being must have beliefs. They cannot run away from having beliefs. But those beliefs can be wrong, can be false, or can be true. But we cannot escape from having beliefs, because not everything that we have is what we call facts. So we are a believing creature. We must have beliefs. But the issue is, are our beliefs true or not, true or false. And then we are an acting being. Man is an acting human being is an acting creature. We must act. But the question is whether the action are right or wrong, are ethical or not ethical. All right. This healthy or not healthy. But we have no choice. One must have it. Now and I like to see this, in other words, that this volume 1 basically lays the foundations for healthy living. And the first dimension of preventive medicine is something which is very emphasized in Islam. So volume 1 is about preventive medicine. Why? Because by having true belief and reaction, there would be the first level or the first dimension of preventive medicine. Islam emphasized this so much, question of preventive medicine. If you look at the theory of medicine of Ibn Sina, Ibn Sina's philosophy of medicine, he talks about this preventive medicine. And Islam, we look upon our this Arkanul Iman, the Arkanul Islam as preventive, basically. Now, the volume number 2, centered on Adad, Mu'amalat, I here provide some, try to summarize that. Basically this volume deals with that the need to know the art of healthy living on earth that is blessed and sanctified by heaven. Earthly living that is sanctified by heaven. That is the essence of volume number 2. I should remember volume number 2. Let's say, yes. So Al-Ghazali talks about the need for ethics. Yeah, the ethics of all those things, all those books, Adab and Ahkam. All right. So yeah. So basically, this the need for this ethics. All right. And what Al-Ghazali is arguing, all right, we should know the art of healthy living. By knowing these the rules, the regulations, the ethics, we will be able to have this healthy living. So I use that word, the art. And the second dimension of and of course, volume 2 now provides the second dimension of preventive medicine. So by having already, by practicing those things, that will prevent us from, for example, of course, the idea is this. Let's say, take the first example, the ethics of eating, for example. And the other thing, the example is the one also, we can apply the same argument. The argument is that, all right, while the thing is necessary, we must have it, we must do it. Of course, we have to eat. All right. So the art of eating here is whether we are eating alone or eating with other people. But even when eating alone, we still have to observe a kind of adab, but in this case with Allah Ta'ala. Yeah? Allah Ta'ala sees us. Yeah? So if you're concerned about our relationship with God, then we should observe also this art of eating. But the point is, if we go against the ethics of the ethics of eating, in terms of example, in terms of excesses, like excesses, no. So if you take excesses, it can have a negative impact on our health. I referred before already the question of what basically that's why the appetite of the stomach is looking, the desire of the stomach will lead us to eat in excesses, eating the wrong food and so on, not the halal. Yeah. So the idea is, if we don't observe these kinds of things let's say in the kind of moderate way, that's why moderate living is very, very important. Yeah? So the impact, if that negativity can be not simply experienced by the individual, but also can flow into society, can affect the whole society. That applies to the other thing. So basically, what I'm trying to impress upon you here is that volume number 2, the mu'amalat, all right, the correctly carried out will become the second dimension of preventive medicine. Of course, here I'm talking about preventive social medicine in particular. Right? Now, and therefore the need for ethics and rules, moderate living in all the 10 areas of living. So Al-Ghazali's volume number 2 is calling for moderate living in all the 10 areas of living according to the golden mean, as in other traditions, in other cultures. Now, volume number 3, Mulikat, this I said here, volume number 3, because it deals with diseases, illnesses, not of the physical body, but of the heart, of the soul. These are the spiritual, the psychological diseases. Now, I said here, Islamic theodicy. Theodicy means that branch of knowledge which deals with the issue of the existence of evil, why evil exists. Right? Now, Islamic theodicy asserts that diseases, illnesses, both natural and human generated, are part of the divine decrees, which of course related to the 6th article of faith. We believe in qada and qadar. Yeah. So that belief in that that the divine measure of all things. We believe in the divine determination, measure of all things. All right. So it's part of that divine decree. So disease is always there. We cannot run away. Yeah. Diseases come and go, but disease as such will stay, because disease has been decreed by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Yeah. Many diseases of the past have disappeared, but now comes new diseases, and we don't know what the diseases of the future will be. So we have to live with diseases, because that is decreed. But also, what we believe in qadar, then also the qadar means that while disease has been decreed, but also Allah has provided the means for human being to respond to that decree. Just say, for example, in the pandemic. Yeah? So if the Prophet have advised us, if we are in an area of epidemic, in other words, if you are in there, the epidemic is happening, then we should not get out of that. Yeah. This is all very wise things that we in current pandemic have been observing. Yeah. So this that's as far as volume number 3. In other words, our soul is open, is exposed. We are exposed to so many possibilities, but of course, here I emphasize when we're talking about diseases and illnesses, we should distinguish between those which are natural and those which are generated by human beings. In other words, which originate, which appear because of the actions of human beings themselves. In other words, human beings are responsible why we have those diseases. In fact, in our time, this kind of diseases are increasing. not getting less, but more and more. So that and we have to deal with that. And volume 4 is basically. Let me see. I want to go back to this volume number 3 because it is very, very important. Yes. Now, if you look at this table, yes, of course, the book 1 or number 2 is just to talk about the nature of the heart, the nature of the soul, to provide as the to provide the background for discussing of the kinds of diseases and the harms that can befall on us. All right. First of all, the book number 3. So you had the 2 desires: the desire of the stomach and the sexual desires. These 2 kinds of desires have landed human beings on all kinds of problems. So many negativity, so many negative things come out because of these 2 desires that to carry to the extreme. When these 2 desires, all right, are in a sense allowed to just go out of control, not controlled by us, then negative things will emerge. Now, and of course, there are many kinds of diseases today that are associated with the desire of the stomach and the sexual desires. And then book number 4, the harms of the tongue. Well, the harms of the tongue, yeah, the afat and lisan, and in Arabic, you know, the word afat carries a wide range of meanings, but also it conveys the ideas of medicine and illness, disease, illness, more referring to kind of psychological disease. It's not disease of the body, of the physical body, but psychological diseases, because the things that can be caused by the tongue. We had to discuss in last lecture about what, like backbiting. Backbiting is the most, it's the most common thing. That's the harm of the tongue. Now, book number 5, the curse of anger. Yeah. So basically, ghadab, what anger can lead to, what hatred can lead to, what envy. These are all psychological diseases that needs to be cured, especially when this become vices. It is a difference. There's a difference between being in anger in just certain circumstances, but having here the vice of anger in the sense that basically it's an angry man. So there is a difference between being an angry man, man always easily angered, than and just to have anger at certain moments, sometimes, it is occasional. It was not something which we consider as having being basically quality. And then the evil of the world, of course, the question of dhamm at dunya, in other words, in terms of distractions of the world. The world can distract us from the real purpose we live in the world. Now, the evil of wealth, the love for wealth, the love, and of course the stinginess, avarice, al-bukhl, and al-bakhil, the love of wealth, because that would depend on the owner of the wealth, whether that wealth is meant to be used in the wise way, to be used for the right purpose. So that's why also we need to examine here, not only to just look at wealth as something positive, but it's also negative. All right, so there you have the pride, self-praise. All these basically are diseases of the soul that needs to be addressed. Now, let me go back now to the, all right, volume number 4, therefore, provides basically the alternative lifestyle, the kind of living that will help us to rid off all those the vices. Basically, to the question how to respond to the vices. Well, you must go through the virtues. We remove an evil deed with a good deed, as the Prophet also said. Remove an evil deed with a good deed. So to get rid of al-muhlikat, we have to come up with munajjiyat. So volume 4 basically is about living a prosperous spiritual and moral life, and to have a firm hold on the things that will save us. So this is the key, munajjiyat, the key to salvation and happiness. And happiness, of course, I will touch on that in our coming lecture, inshallah. Now, to the second question that I raised at the beginning of this lecture, so we have to answer what are the approaches to health in the Ihya? Yes, the work as a whole deals with integral health. Now, what are the approaches now? Well, I summarize, I think, basically under 6 things here. Ihya place emphasis on integral psychology. And I mentioned earlier, in fact, in the first lecture, Al-Ghazali believed in integral psychology. In practice, he came out with that. And he synthesized basically Kalam psychology. And he was a mutakalim, scholar of Kalam. I also mentioned that he brought in jurisprudential psychology, and we understand, we can appreciate that because we have already seen how the Sharia sciences, which are dealt by jurisprudence, so ilm of fiqh, deal also with the questions of, in other words, the Sharia deals with basically what can save the soul, and of course Sufi psychology, all right, and then philosophical psychology. So again, in other words, Ihya is a good example of Al-Ghazali's work. In fact, it's the best example. It is this magnum opus of Al-Ghazali which presents the integral psychology in that sense. Now, number 2, Ihya emphasizes on integral health of the body, soul, mind, and heart. The concept of integral health, the health of those 4 in a unified way. Number 3, Ihya emphasizes on preventive medicine, the role of the Sharia sciences, having with true beliefs and right actions. Right? Number 4, Ihya, and in Ihya, the Sharia sciences are viewed as medicine of the soul, tib and nufus. Right? Now, number 5, responding to vices or illnesses of the soul with the cultivation of virtues. Ihya responds to vices or illnesses of the soul with the cultivation of virtues. This the fada'il. So you have a rada'il, all right, being in a sense treated with the cultivation of fada'il. Spiritual medicine. So the Ihya is providing spiritual medicine through spiritual activities of the heart. The way to respond, to overcome, to remove these vices is to have more what is not spiritual activities of the heart that Islam as a religion has provided, and in both through the Sharia sciences and also through the, for example, the Sufi practices. So basically, in the Ihya, Al-Ghazali refers to these activities of al-rad, where the litany, zikrullah, remembrance of the name Allah, and da'wat, in other words, the supplication, the dua, the dua. These are all spiritual medicine that can help address the problem of vices and sins. Well, of course, Al-Ghazali always reminds us, he said, Al-Ghazali's approach is, he always draw an analogy between physical medicine and spiritual medicine. So in order to appreciate spiritual medicine, he said, just understand physical medicine. There's an analogy, there's a complete analogy there. So knowledge of physical medicine is important, he said, because it will help us to understand what spiritual medicine is all about in terms of the substance, both in terms of the approach, in terms of how to have treatment, in terms of the therapeutic. So basically, spiritual medicine as therapeutic medicine, therapy, in other words, the spiritual therapy. Yes, all that. And yes, the important message is we must trust the physician, whether of the body. So if we all trust our doctors, the physician of the body, right? So if you want to address, if you want to treat psychological diseases, spiritual diseases, then we must also have trust in the physician. Of course, now the spiritual physician, and as far as Ghazali said, the spiritual masters, the people who are knowledgeable in spiritual matters, they are the physicians of the soul. They know what to prescribe for us in order to treat our problems. All right. And number 6, and this is important, what is emphasized by Al-Ghazali, the most potent medicine, the most effective medicine, spiritual medicine, to treat our spiritual diseases, invoking the name divine Allah, just divine Allah. But in order to use that, we need help. We need the guidance of the spiritual physicians. So basically, thank you. I think that is my presentation. So inshallah, next lecture, I'll talk about the Al-Ghazali's alchemy of happiness, the crown of Islamic psychology. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallahu fikum, dear Ustad. And just 1 second, let me just stop sharing the screen. Ustad could, yeah, perfect. Barakallahu fikum. First and foremost, thank you so much for an excellent lecture. And dear participants, excellent brothers and sisters, let's give a round of digital or physical applause to our excellent Murabbi and teacher, Professor Dr. Osman Bakar. Thank you so much for an excellent lecture today. It was such an honor, as always, to learn from your vast amount of knowledge and experience. Professor Osman, there are a couple of questions in the chat. I'm mindful about your time, so we'll just be brief with the Q&A today. And inshallah, we will have more time for Q&A in upcoming sessions, inshallah. Thank you so much for being generous with your time once more, dear Professor. So the first question, Professor Osman, is from Brother Hamid. He is asking, it is said that it was Ghazali who for the first time made division in knowledge into Fard al-Ain and Fard al-Kifaya. How can it be justified because the Prophet ﷺ has talked about ilm al-nafiya and ilm al-ghayr nafiya, and some people have considered Ghazali responsible for stalling the progress of scientific and rational sciences in Islam. Could you please explain, sir?
think about the useful knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. He would like to have an explanation if Imam Ghazali's stance has stalled the progress of scientific and rational sciences and Islamic thought.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I understand. Okay. Well, if we look at the history of Islamic thought, before Al-Ghazali, we have already scholars who, in a sense, talk about what is knowledge that is beneficial and what knowledge is not beneficial. Basically classification and knowledge among the philosophers. All right, among the philosophers, Ibn Sina, who came before Al-Ghazali, have already tried to divide science between the kind of the rational sciences, the Al-Ulum, Al-Aqliya, the rational intellectual sciences that based on reason, but reason that is not opposed to revelation. And then we have in other words, the religious sciences, or rather the Naqli sciences, based on tradition. Tradition here meaning both the revealed tradition, that is the Quran, the prophetic tradition, then based on the knowledge of the authorities, the scholars in the subject. All right. So among the scholars of Kalam, they will talk about that. But of course, Al-Ghazali, during his time, he tried to look at all the knowledge that was already been produced before his time, then try to classify. So one of that, of course, he classified into what they call the Fardu Ain and the Fardu Kifaya knowledge. There are many different kinds of classification, but Al-Ghazali's novel contribution was to provide this and discuss in a detailed way about the Fardu Ain and the Fardu Kifaya, because by that time Islamic civilization is already 5 centuries old. Yeah, a lot of knowledge has been produced, many different branches of knowledge. Yeah, so he was in a position to look at that, to survey that, and he saw all kinds of responses from Muslim. What he was concerned as a scholar is to make sure that the Muslims really pursue knowledge that is beneficial to themselves and to the Ummah and to the society at large. So that was felt necessary to have those two categories of knowledge. Yeah? The Fardu Ain, that knowledge which everybody, everyone, every individual must know, must have, yeah? Because it is necessary. Instead of example, a prayer, salat. So everybody must know the knowledge of prayer, because prayer is compulsory. We must, yeah. And of course, the question of Kifaya, meaning that there's a lot of misunderstanding today among Muslims, understanding of Fardu Kifaya. We have one definition saying that Fardu Kifaya knowledge is that kind of knowledge which, if you have already a group of people pursuing that, then it's no longer, that duty is no longer, in other words, not incumbent upon the whole community to pursue that. Yeah, but I think a better the question of the necessity, in a sense that if Fardu Ain is compulsory for every individual, but Fardu Kifaya is compulsory for the whole society. Society as well must have that knowledge. Even it's not a question of enough to have a group of people, but the question is whether the needs of society, of the whole society, are met. Let's say, for example, take medicine, given by Al-Ghazali as Fardu Kifaya, knowledge of medicine in his doctors. Yes, we must have medical doctors. It's not enough to have to say that we already have 100 doctors. It's not then the task of Fardu Kifaya is just absorbed from us. We are no longer bound because we have already 100. No, but the concept of Fardu Kifaya is whether the problem of disease exists in our society, in the community, is already disappeared. If it's not disappeared, we need more doctor, then we have to produce more. It's not just to say that we already have enough one group of people doing that job, then the whole community has been absorbed of that duty. No, it's not. Yeah. The question is whether the problem, that is the diseases, have disappeared or not. If it's not disappeared, then if 100 is not enough, we have to produce more. So which means it requires us to plan. Yeah. So the concept of Fardu Ain, Fardu Kifaya requires us to plan, especially Fardu Kifaya. Requires Muslim society, Muslim country, to plan about the needs in every branch of knowledge that is called Fardu Kifaya. Thank you.
Barakallahu feekum, Professor. Thank you for a very, very thorough answer to the Brother Hamidullah's question. There is a question that is pretty similar. There are two members, Sister Aziza and Brother Hamid, are asking similar questions. So let me try to fuse them into one. So the questions are, does Imam Ghazali address the distinction between conscious and unconscious beliefs? In Al-Muniqid min al-Dahlal, he has talked about the unconscious or inherited belief and belief by one's conscious effort to find out the human fitra on which we have been created. So the question is, does Imam Ghazali address the distinction between conscious and unconscious beliefs?
I think so, yes, he did. Yeah. He addressed in sense to understand basically he wanted to survey the human mind as such. Yeah. And he talks about, yes, the human essence, that essence called the human, has consciousness. Right now, talk about the consciousness. All right, people ask. Now, the question is, have we remembered? In talking about questions of remember what has been taught to us, but we have forgotten. Yeah. So in the consciousness, are we conscious? Are we? Is it in our consciousness that we have already? Already we have responded to Allah's question in the spiritual one. Alastu bi rabbikum? Qalu bala shahidna. What do we ask? Are we conscious now of that? We can't remember that. Yeah? We can't remember. But that Quran wants us to be reminded. To be reminded of something that in fact was addressed to us, but we forgot. We had forgotten. So something like even what Plato said. So what also the Imam Ghazali and Sufi authorities, right? Spiritual life, basically spiritual advancement, is to remember what has been forgotten. To remember. What's the meaning of the word remember? Why do we want to remember? In other words, to look at what is in our consciousness. Yeah. In a sense, to be reconscious again of what has been hidden from our consciousness. So our consciousness should be progressing in the sense that we are recovering more of what was to be unconscious. Of course, we approach that and exactly approach it from different way from what modern psychologists do, in dealing with that. One starts from the empirical approach, but the other is from the metaphysical approach. held by religion. But to the question, he did address, yeah, that question.
Barakallahu feekum, Professor, for thorough elaboration on the question. We have a question from Amir and Manha. They are asking, has Imam Ghazali defined death in his discourse as a physical death of the body, or has he defined death as some spiritual unveiling which is similar to the physical?
Well, Al-Ghazali as a Sufi, like when a Sufis talk about spiritual death, all right? In other words, what the Sufis wanted to achieve, following the path of the Prophet Muhammad himself, of the Prophet is the spiritual death. You know, that die before you die. Die before you die, to experience. And he would argue that then the invocation, by practicing the invocation of the divine name that is provided in the spiritual path, of which, of course, he was a follower, and he not only a follower but a master in that. So yeah, so the even before we experience physical death, we in sense are alluded already to that, through the death of the carnal soul. What I mean by the spiritual death is the death of the our soul, of the lower soul, of the lower nafs, right? So that we are ready for that physical death. The idea of Ghazali, Remembrance of Death, the title of his 40th book, is so that we cultivate that, yeah, because it is a means of spiritual progress. Yeah, it is a way. It is very important to be ready for that, and the spiritual path provided the means to experience what I call spiritual death, the death of the physical desires, the desires. In other words, we are not subject to the control of the lower desires. On the contrary, we control them. So even at the level of the Sharia, dealing with, say, for example, fasting. So if we do fasting, not only in the month of Ramadan, but also the 6 days of fasting in Shawwal, the fasting every Monday and Thursday, fasting now in the 10 days of Zulhijjah, all right? If that becomes a practice, consistent, sincere, constant, and so on, that will lead to the experience of that, and to the spiritual death of the lower desire. That's what he means.
Barakallahu feekum, Professor Osman. It just made me realize that Rumi, if I'm not mistaken, in the Masnavi, he says that I was born raw, and then I was cooked, and then I was consumed. And I guess that's what you allude to with die before you die, you know, like, I guess we could get cooked by working with our lower nafs, and that's perhaps the most significant contribution in ilm al-nafs and Islamic psychology. And then we will perhaps taste the death before dying physically.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an amazing analogy. Barakallahu feekum, Professor, for a great answer. I'm mindful of the time, Professor. How much more time do you have, or shall we just postpone the rest of the questions?
Well, I thought normally we finish at 10:30, so we have another 20 and 15 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Barakallahu feekum. So let's go to next question, Professor. Brother Amir Hidayatullah is asking, is there any findings, research that points out the influence of Imam Ghazali and the Ihya Ulum, especially in modern psychology? This is a good question, actually.
I've come across, yes, I think there are a few, but there are still more areas to be covered. And then I think one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk about, for example, today's lecture, to emphasize this, so that more young people, the younger generations, will do research. I mean, so much to do. There are a few, but they're limited. Mostly that I came across on the educational psychology. More psychology with regard to education, child psychology, how to guide the younger people, the youth, and so on, to understand their psychology. Yeah, we have that. Basically under what is called educational psychology. But you can see how vast, if you look just at the topics I read to you, for those four volumes, because I said every book of the 40 books is connected, has some connection, some relevant to issue of integral health, to integral psychology. So let's say, for example, if you want to look at the book on the foundations of articles of faith, what is the relevance of those articles of faith to the concept of certitude, certainty in your religion, not to have any doubt, no shock. Ghazali talks about his own experience of shock, doubt. In other words, the how to attain certainty in religious life. He talks about different stages of iman. Each stage of iman, belief, is related to certain level of certitude. That's one example you can talk about.
It's actually amazing what you're alluding to, Professor, because we need a lot of new research, as you say. And I think we are now a new generation of young students and mental health professionals that are interested. And we need to actually be in control of our Islamic heritage, because I study positive psychology, for instance, which is a new, or it's quite new, aspect of modern Western psychology, which is not as much anti-spirituality as perhaps behaviorism or psychoanalysis. And if you look at Martin Seligman, who is the father, you can say, of positive psychology, he is actually using some notions from Imam Ghazali. But what he's doing, Professor Osman, is essentially secularizing it. Because positive psychology, with all its benefits, because I do find some things in positive psychology beneficial, actually, so we should study it, but it's still secularization of Tawhidi framework, which you were alluding to, is the epistemology that all Islamic thought is based upon, and of course, Islamic psychology. And this secularization gives us some notions of Imam Ghazali, which is not connected to Tawhid, which is, Imam Ghazali was first and foremost advocate of Tawhid before anything else. So we as Muslims, whether we are students or PhD students or mental health professionals or clinicians, and we will be happy in the ISIP to support this together with IIUM and ISTAC, where we have Professor Osman, that we need to do this research ourselves. How can we utilize Imam Ghazali in the notion of healing, in the notion of psychology or Islamically integrated psychotherapy? This is very important, dear excellent brothers and sisters. And as Professor Osman is telling us, we should actually engage it. Or if we don't, then others who perhaps don't have the Tawhidi perspective will then appropriate it and change it and take it away. It's kind of like Rumi. If we look at Rumi has been taken in the West from his house. His house was Tawheed. So when Rumi speaks about Mastallah, which means to be drunk it's not drunk in alcohol, it's drunk in love of Allah. It's fana, it's annihilation of the self. Now, if you look at some of the translations of, for instance, Rumi into English or other languages by non-Muslims, and many of them Orientalists, they have taken away that Tawhidi dimension and really made Rumi into something else. He taken away him from his Hanafi faqih background that he was. So we as Muslims, we have a responsibility, as Professor Osman says, and I want to emphasize this because this is the ambition of the ISIP movement, really, to be a platform for creating this research so that we bring back Rumi into his house, which is Tawheed, which is Islam and Sharia, and to bring back Imam Ghazali into that, because we see that others will interest, because we have so many gems in Islamic history and Islamic psychology, but they will interpret it according to their context, which might be secular, and then they will look at masked and not look at masked in Allah, which is love in Allah, to be annihilated, which is essentially what Professor Osman is alluding to, die before you die, which is a tasawwuf notion, right? And this is our duty, and inshallah, under the leadership of Professor Osman and excellent organizations and universities like IIUM and ISTAC, we will be able to do this, inshallah. So I just wanted to mention that. Barakallahu feekum, Professor Osman. Let's go to the next question. It's a question from Suryadi Nomi, Professor Osman, from Indonesia. The question is, how is Imam Ghazali talks about intelligence based on Ihya Ulum?
Well, I thought I have discussed this in previous lecture when talk about the when Al-Ghazali wanted to explain to us that as his essential meaning at the essential level, the word qalb, the nafs, ruh, and aql all have the same meaning. In other words, that essence of human being. All right. But although they have that essential meaning, which defines humanness, the fact that we have these differences suggests then they also have their manifestations at the lower levels, even right to the lowest level, of course, the physical body. For example, at the level of the physical body, we have what we call the gross senses, the subtle senses, the inner senses, which are all related to intelligence. Now, why important for us to emphasize as a Muslim is this. Now, intelligence is we have a hierarchy of intelligences, The highest, of course, is we're talking about divine intelligence itself, God's intelligence. God, we have the divine intelligence, which is the source of all intelligence. The Islamic in Islamic tradition, Islamic intellectual tradition, all right, the angels are called intelligences, uqul, singular, aql, jama, plural, uqul, intelligences, because so in other words, the human intellect and the angels are of the same nature. They are of light. Based on hadith also. So angels are creatures of light, and they are intelligences, uqul. And since we are a microcosm, human being is a microcosm, that also must exist in the human being. So human intelligence is also of light. So that's why we should always open ourselves to enlightenment. So basically, what is enlightenment? Enlightenment means that is to empower the intelligences within us. First of all, the intelligence of that which was breathed into us. All right. Now, so there's something angelic inside ourselves. The angelic elements within ourselves. That is the intellect, the uncle. But we have also intelligence, basically, which is centered on the brain. The internal senses are centered on the brain. Al-Ghazali maintained that the internal senses, like the memory, the faculty of composition, the ability of the human mind to compose all kinds of images, all right, which call is here the imaginary faculty. Now, in the context of the present time, when people are talking about this artificial intelligence versus natural intelligence, it is important for us to let people understand that we are talking of different scale altogether. So what artificial intelligence is trying to do is to imitate certain aspects in the natural human intelligence that operate a kind of a mechanical way. Yeah, there's basically there is a computer. There is a computer in our own mind. All right. So that's why in Islamic thought there is a distinction made between universal intellect, al-aqlu al-kulli, this is universal intellect, and the specific intellect, the al-aql al-juz'i. Al-aql al-juz'i is something what many people tend to understand, this intelligence that is centered in the brain. But intelligence that is in the human mind is much broader. It's much broader than that, and that's important to be understood. So Al-Ghazali, when he talks about intelligence, while saying that the essential meaning of intelligence is the same as qalb, is the same as ruh, is the same as the an-nafs al-mutma'inna of that level, but you have the lower level of intelligence that we share with the other animals, for example. Yeah. So there is a part of human intelligence that we share with the animal, but there is part of intelligence that is not shared by the animals. That is beyond the animal intelligence. All right. So I think in fact, there's another area that you can do research. The Ghazali's concept of internal senses. All right. The relationship with intelligence. In what kind of intelligence is being associated with the 5 internal senses. Thank you.
Barakallahu fikum for the nasiha, dear professor. Yeah, that's something we should definitely do. This is the last question for today, and then we will end the session. This is from Brother Nuruddin. He is asking, Professor Bakar, can we say the religion of Islam is a practical psychology in itself? Regarding the 2 desires mentioned in the Ihya Ulum, I read that Hamka associates stomach desires with Marxism, while sexual desires with Freudianism. Can we interpret that crisis in the modern world is caused by 2 desires that are becoming the foundation of modern science and civilization? Thank you.
Well, I mean, it's part of it, but doesn't explain everything. But certainly there is much truth in what Brother Nuruddin said. Yeah. In other words, basically what Al-Ghazali wanted to tell us is that one of the most important area of human life in which which we have lost control in a sense. We are not able basically to order our life because of the excesses, giving not provided a kind of moderate, the moderate, that golden mean. Is certainly not part of the modern world. The modern world lives in excesses. In excesses is one way or the other. Yeah. Whereas what Ghazali is asking is moderation, the wasatiyah. But see, the wasatiyah order in every human being. What we have wasatiyah order in society, in the community. What we also wasatiyah, the balance, to live in a balanced way in the individual. And Ghazali's main interest is basically, of course, is the individual akhlaq, the individual character. Yeah. Because these are the two sources of evils, also social evils. There are other sources, but there are these two main sources. So there should be a study also. I mean, the kind of accounting for, I think there are a lot already. I mean, you talk about the two desires, the desires of the stomach and desires of the sexual desires. There's no doubt that these are two of the major causes of the disorder in our society, which has given rise to so many diseases. That's why Islam provides. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Allah knows what people are going to do. Yeah. So the weaknesses of human being, they easily succumb to temptations of Satan. Yeah. Remember, and Ghazali emphasized that in the chapter on the wonders of the heart. That chapter, he talk about the role of Satan. Yeah. If a Quran says that Shaitan is our enemy number one, then we should better treat so. Yeah? So God reminds us Shaitan is our enemy number one. But unfortunately, most human beings ignore that. We don't really stick to that and accept that and deal accordingly. So God provides us with the means to resist the temptation of Satan. So many different ways. Islam provides us with numerous ways how to enable ourselves not to be influenced by Satan. Yeah? So I think that's just my response to that doctrine. Yeah, to an extent, I agree. In other words. What is that?
It was somebody who forgot to close the microphone. Yes. I closed it. It was a good ending tune, actually. Barakallahu feekum, Professor Osman Bakar. Thank you so much for being our teacher and murabbi in this process of learning and internalizing the wisdoms of Ihya Ulum from a psychological point of view. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you a nice summer and a nice month now, or 1.5 months before we meet again, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also give you a blessed last 10 days of Dhul Hijjah and Eid al-Adha Mubarak to you and your beloved family. Dear Professor Osman, thank you so much for being so generous of your time. And we want to, from the ISIP and from all the brothers and sisters, really send our salutes to you and to your family, and also congratulate you on this wonderful award that you have achieved for your all your career's excellent achievements and contributions to Islamic thought. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always put you in state of shifa so we can benefit from you many more years to come. I also want to thank all of our brothers and sisters who participated today. Thank you so much for your excellent questions and engagement. It's such an honor to be with all of you, and we learn and we are so inspired by all of you. Don't forget to do your quizzes for all of you who registered to the program prior to the fourth class. The fourth class will be on the 20th of August, Saturday, the 20th of August. More information will be emailed to all of you who registered and also will be shared in all of our WhatsApp groups, inshallah. So next class is August the 20th, and we wish you all a great 1.5 months. Please feel free to study and read, because this is part of our duty as Talib al-Ilm. And at the same time, enjoy the sohbah and company of your family, the loved ones. And we say Eid Mubarak to all of you in advance, dear excellent brothers and sisters. We're honored to be with all of you. And please forgive us as organizers, ISIP, for any shortcomings. I'm personally responsible for all of that. And all the good comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all the problems are solely mine. I want to thank Sister Fatima Ahmed, one of the co-founders of ISIP, for her excellent work as administrator and facilitator for today and during the whole program. And thank you to Sister Yusra for doing amazing admin work today. Do you want to end by saying anything, Professor Osman?
I just want to say to everyone with the greeting of this in Malay, Selamat Hari Raya Haji, Selamat Hari Raya Korban, and Eid al-Adha to everyone. Thank you.
MashaAllah, Barakallah Fika, Professor. Such an honor to be with you. Thank you for teaching us. And we want to thank IIUM and ISTAC for giving the opportunity for us to have this program with Professor Osman.